Hello again. I suppose the more experience I have over time, the more I realise that it takes time to develop fitness, and it's very easy to overdo it and be impatient and exhaust yourself by just trying to achieve too much in too little time. So today I thought it'd be worth talking about those things. So I remember when I was quite a lot younger, in my 20s, I suppose. I spent some time on a secondment, and I live with a friend in Watford, in Britain, in the south of England. And we did some running with Watford Harriers. He was a member of Watford Harriers, and the best runner in that club. I remember chatting with him in the pub one evening, and he said to me, I think he thought the secret really to why he was better than everybody else in the club, and actually quite a good runner, was that he didn't do as much as everybody else. When he started feeling fitter, he backed off a bit. So he just tried to maintain that fitness, maintain his consistency, train consistently, and not overdo it. Whereas certainly in my experience, and perhaps in your experience, the tendency can be to, when you start feeling fitter, is to push harder. Go for those Strava segments. Push harder in training, try to get a bit more out of yourself in the interval sessions. And really that's the opposite of what you should be doing. What you should be doing is keeping it steady, keeping to those targets, and your training, and letting your fitness develop. Give yourself a sort of like a phrase, that sort of paraphrases something that Joe Friel says in his book, Fast After 50, in that you give yourself some sort of stimulus and then let yourself get fit. You can't force yourself to get fit. Anyway, so that's my experience, and that's a story really of where it started to come into my mind. And over the years, I've observed myself and other people overdoing it by getting a bit too enthusiastic. So the question is, are you overdoing it? And if you back off a bit, will you be fitter and faster? So here are my notes for this video: consistency, overload, recovery, time. It takes time to get fitter. You can't rush, and take your time, and I'm sure you'll get to your goals as long as your goals are reasonable and achievable. Consistency is something I talk about a lot, and consistently overloading your system, putting a bit of stress on your body but not too much, and then recovering from it and then doing it again is what makes the difference. Doing one big session and then exhausting yourself and spending ages recovering doesn't work, and you've probably found that if you've tried it. So what you're trying to do is overload your system a bit, and if you don't exhaust yourself, you can probably do it more frequently, and as a consequence, by just going a little bit harder than you used to and recovering from it, and then going a little bit harder than you used to again, means that overall you can probably overload your system more. So for example, in my last video I talked about an athlete that I'm working with, and what I decided was the best strategy was to try and improve his FTP, to improve his overall riding speed for an ultra endurance race he's training for. And I thought that, well, he's probably got it for sitting on the bike for a long time, but he could get faster. So for example, to improve your FTP, you might try the classic 3 or 4 by 8 minutes with 2 minutes recovery, or 5 by 5 minutes with 1 minute recovery. And doing those training sessions, for example, if you can only just manage 4 by 8 minutes at your FTP, then you'd be sort of exhausted. It might take you 2 or 3 days, so 4 days or whatever to recover. You might only manage one of those sessions a week if you're trying to do a long run or a long ride as part of your training week. Whereas if you did a bit less, if you backed off and you did, say you can manage 4 by 8 minutes at FTP, or your critical pace, and you do 3, you're still getting a big stimulus, a good stimulus, but you can recover a little bit faster, and you might be able to then do a tempo session or a maximal aerobic session or whatever, as well as your long run. So you can get 3 sessions in per week, or 2 good sessions per week. Whereas if you pushed it to the limit, the quality of your session might be a little bit less, the threshold session. And also you might struggle to do your longer ride as well, or your longer run, or whatever you decide to do for your other hard session of the week. As you know, for hard sessions, I include longer sessions as well as higher intensity sessions, because they all take a lot of time to recover from. So doing a bit less can mean you can actually do a little bit more in your training week, and as a consequence that's a greater stimulus than it would be for just one big session, one big hit, and then it takes you ages to recover from it. And also if you push yourself right to the limit, then you're at a much higher risk of getting injured. Well, as you know, if you're tired, you don't have the same control, you don't have the same skills, and your body's fatigued, so you're more likely to pull a muscle or strain something, or if you're on a bike, fall off, or if you're running, you might fall over if you're a trail runner. So that's another reason not to go too far. On the other side of the equation is recovery. So focusing on recovery can make a huge difference to how effective your training is and how much training you can do. One thing that brought that home to me recently is my watch. And I've been watching the Giro at the weekend, and a couple of times it came up and said, oh, your recovery time's reduced because you've had a sort of more relaxing time. And okay, well, that we all know that the more relaxed you are, the quicker you recover, the less stress you put on your body, then the quicker you recover, and the more effective your training is, because the adaptation takes place during your recovery periods. And focusing on that recovery, maybe having a nap in the afternoon at the weekend, can improve your adaptation and mean that you're ready to train much sooner. So building on that, if you're focusing on recovery and getting proper recovery, you can probably handle more training, or the training that you're doing can be more effective, or it can be more intense. So keep that in mind. So, but also that if you're having quite a good period and you're rested, you're not stressed, work's not too stressful, and you're able to sort of chill out, maybe the weather's nicer as well, then that level of training may be too much for you. If work becomes stressful, you're having to squeeze sessions in, you're not able to eat properly or something like that. So external stresses can make what's not too much in a certain period of time too much in other periods of time. And at that time, there's a good argument for backing off, so that you can, less is more sort of thing that we talked about earlier. So hopefully the message that is coming across is that you can't rush this. You give yourself a stimulus, you adapt to it, you give yourself another stimulus, you adapt to it. Don't make big steps, don't try to make big steps in training, make small steps in training to achieve these big goals, these big exciting goals. Plot processes that are going to work for you with small steps towards those goals, these stepping stones, and you get there. So good luck, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.